Midi Composing Gloves here, and today we're going over what is probably going to be the last video in the rhythm section of this. And it is focused around stylistic markings, tenuto, staccato, which is this tenuto is very similar to legato, and what was the last one? Marcato. So, okay, you might not have these. So these are going to give you way more options, and you're going to have to learn how to write these in and sort of stylistically what they mean. Especially since you're learning it via this method, it's way less intuitive than the other method, which is another reason why I advocate learning the other one first, which I've said on a lot of videos in this series. So, okay, we're going to play down a rhythm. Now, right now, if we want it to be played legato, so there are all these implications that happen. So first I'm going to explain it to you as a clarinet player. So I'm playing, and there is a marking over notes that can tell me that, like, hey, this note's a little bit shorter, but it's still a quarter note, and it's a little dot. It's called staccato. It means detached. So the notes are spaced out. So if I were to play this line before, let's say it was da 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 da, and then it was detached, I saw staccato markings, I'd go da 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 da, but I would not give emphasis to any one of the beats. This is called staccato. And so when we play things just slightly shorter, they're staccato. So if this was our note, our line, to make them staccato, we would simply move them in a little bit. That's staccato. So they're tiny things. They're stylistic markings. Then we have things called accents. Accents are general. There's two kinds. There's legato accent, and it looks like an arrow on top. We talked about this one in the accent and the emphasis video. It's where you simply increase the volume on one note. But then I talked about all the different contours you can get on an attack. So this is a sweeping long. You maintain the note length. It's da, da. Like, it's not da. It's not da. It's da. It's long. It's big, sweeping. And so it's a legato accent. So it would sound like this. So all our notes would be like this note if they were all accented. Now, if they're all accented, by definition, not one of them by comparison is accented. So I'm going to unaccent beats 3, 2, and 4. So if we were to make these longer, the accent lasts the whole note. Now we're playing on a piano, which naturally decays. But if I was playing a clarinet, I'd go do, 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 or do, 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 do. Like, I would give accents. It's a stylistic movement. Now there's another one that is called marcato. Marcato. So staccato is short detached. Accent is like that. Now, marcato is when things are... A marcato is when... you go, it's like an accent, so it gets a volume increase. And there's other things that happen too, because when you blow harder, air will come out some of the sides of your cheeks. The reed will vibrate more, you'll get more resonance. There's a timbre change that happens. And the feeling of the player changes, and so it just influences everything. But in general, the very, very coarse way of thinking about it is volume increases and it's shorter, so it's detached. To me, this is a marcato. So it's really short, and you'll hear different levels. Like, depending, if you're already playing stuff that's pretty short and choppy and like dun dun dun, a marcato comes up. That means even more. So it'd be like that. And sometimes they're like even shorter. Like there's different interpretations of how this can go down. Okay, so there's one more. It is the tenuto. And the slur to a degree. So a tenuto is long, connected. It's da na 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 na. It's very flowing, very friendly. It's the friendly dog. Well, maybe not a dog's not that smooth and flowing. The friendly snake. I don't know. Never mind. We're dropping animal comparisons. The friendly penguin that's sliding around on its belly. Da na na na. I don't even know. So, anyways, it sounds like more like this, where all the notes are even volume. If there is an accent, it's a gradual accent, more like a volume movement, not necessarily an attack. So it'd be da na na na. That would be a crescendo and decrescendo rather. So tenuto, do do do, very long, connected. This style of playing is also called legato. Now, this is heavily dependent, if you're playing an instrument, on the attack of your instrument itself. It's also dependent on if it's a recording of an instrument, like sampled instruments. It's going to be dependent upon what kind of samples they have. So you'll see legato patches and tenuto patches. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to emulate those different styles of playing. So when you write your notes out, you can do that. Contact has note switches. So if I open up Contact, there are different attacks. There are different styles. And so if I pull out, let's pull out a clarinet. Why not? Clarinet. So here's clarinet. Here's the sustain. So this is the same thing as legato. It's a take on legato because there's all these different ways to do it. There's endless ways. And so here is it. Oh, I'm not playing in the correct thing. So let's write out a rhythm and sort of go through these. So, because this is something that you just lack if you've never played an actual instrument. So this is one of their takes on legato. So that's one. Here's another one. This is the Forte Piano. So that means loud, soft. And I don't give it enough time to get soft. This is a rather long Forte Piano. So I'm at the mercy of the recordings they gave me. And I can change in the middle of the notes by putting down MIDI notes that correspond to the different values I have up here. So C0 would change the notes in my MIDI land to a C, to a sustain value. So if I hit this one, you see it switches to sustain. So I can use that. We don't have a Marcato, but we have a staccato. So that's what staccato would sound like. Their staccato is pretty staccato. I'm going to leave it there. So there's a much more legato patch and another very legato patch. So there's one other thing that you can't do here, and in real life you could. So, and I could demonstrate it singing. So if I wanted to sing this line, I could go do, 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 or I could slur them. And it would basically mean that they were all connected, that at no point was one note not another note. So I'd be like, ooh. So you hear the notes, but I never go do, do, do. I never separate them. It's just ooh. That is slurring. And it's a very common thing. It's like when the string player lifts the string, that's the end of the slur. It's used to agree to phrasing. And so a real orchestra will have these. Now, there are sample libraries like this have come a long way in being able to emulate this phrasing, because it's as you can see, it changes syncopation. It changes everything. How realistic your music can sound. It changes how you can create syncopations, what kind of vision you're going for. There's a particular style you're after. You're going to need to come up with different methods for that. And people have come up with these ingenious scripts and programs to take different sample recordings and blend them together. Some libraries have gone so far as to actually sing that legato a whole bunch of different ways. So when you play it, it knows that if you lifted up your finger to trigger a sample, like some other sample that's going to connect it a particular way, like da, da, if I were to hit two notes, da, da. But if I were to hold the notes down, it knows, oh, you hold them down. So trigger this one sample that's them actually playing that. And it's like crazy. It'll be like, da, like, and it sounds real because it is real. Like they really did that. One of the best vocal libraries I've ever used, Clara's voice, is like that. Oops, sorry. That'll be loud, or at least annoying. So anyways, that's the difference. So we have Tenuto, which is legato, very long, smooth, connected. We have accent, legato accent, which is the da, not like the broad emphasis. And then we have staccato, detached. And so da, 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 but no volume emphasis. That's some younger players will mess that up all the time. Even college players who are anyone that's not still learning their horn to a greater or lesser extent, trying to conquer it still is still in that phase. I mean, there's a level of proficiency, you know what I'm talking about. And there's one more. There's legato, Marcato, which is the accent that's also shorter. So, and again, that one's fairly open to interpretation. But I want to tell you this because as a composer with your syncopations, these are huge weapons to be able to create interesting syncopations. And they are also, but you suffer from the effects of other people's recordings, the way your synthesizer interprets crap, because there's envelopes that give it contours, and there's all these other things that come into play. And as a rhythm, it's just a huge subject that is really more sound design in some areas. So I'm going to let you go ahead and check out my sound design courses, because that'll give you a clue on how some of this is. I'm giving you compositional viewpoints, theory viewpoints on how these things would work in a track, in a song. So we can create an emphasis like this. We can have a C major chord, and we can repeat it. And we can have this one be shorter, and this one be shorter. Well, that's just a different length, so that's not technically a stylistic marking. Here we go. And we could have it be accented a little less, and this one be accented a little more to create some syncopation. And this one we could have accented, and we can make this one staccato. So our last two will be staccato. Now we have that ring out from the vibrato too, which is going to change how things are as well. Let's make them all slightly staccato. Whoops. Now we could come into FL keys, and we have a number of other things to worry about, like how long the release is. So now we can hear it much easier. So there's all these other things that come into play that you just got to know about that will screw over your syncopation if you're not aware of what settings you have. So a lot of times when you're working in the piano roll, you have to be aware of what you need to touch. Usually it's going to be this sort of a deal, the envelope that's going to affect that. But occasionally you may have certain effects like chorusing or reverb, mostly reverb. Chorusing shouldn't be an issue with attack and release, but that's a thing. So I hope you have learned. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.